Hey Tony, it's Thursday. First off, to answer your question of the week, yeah, we have a few amiibos. We have a few Splatoon ones, and we have what was it, the limited edition Yoshi.
I have a Yoshi's Woolly World and Poochie's Woolly World, both of them first edition, both of them are handcrafted. I also have most of the first wave DLC children.
So yes, we have some, but they're mostly justices, but we have some. So what I actually want to talk about this week is going to be a little bit different, and it's because I've started listening to a new podcast today, and I revisited an old game that I hadn't played in a long time. So what I'm going to talk about today is pirates.
Piracy!
Piracy, yeah!
Yeah.
um, so pirates hold this place in pop culture that I feel very few groups of people do. Like I think I could put pirates up there with like ninja samurai, cowboys, and things like that as like big parts of pop culture that are just blatantly wrong compared to how it was. But it's because it leads to a fascination with them. And I can kind of get why people are fascinated by pirates. Now, I know for me personally, I really got an introduction to pirates back when I was a kid, predominantly through Peter Pan. Truly, that was probably the first pirate media that I consumed. And then, of course, I consumed like Treasure Island, Treasure Planet, things like that. Like I have to imagine for you, Tony, your like one of the defining pirate things for you. I'd have to imagine to be Pirates of the Caribbean because those movies were huge when you and I were kids. Like I remember the first one came out a little when you were pretty young and I was probably like 8 or so, maybe a little older. But I know you and I started watching the movies later on and really enjoyed them. And it just kind of got me thinking as to why we as particularly Americans, have this love affair with pirate culture. I'd even say worldwide. Like, at least in the Western world, pirates were considered a scourge by all intents and purposes for many, many years. So it's kind of interesting to see in the year 2020 how impactful pirates have been and just pirate culture as a whole into our popular culture. Now, first off, I'm going to say is that one of the key parts of piracy in modern day world is certainly Treasure Island, which is just absolutely bold faced wrong. Like it was mythology, and everything in it is inaccurate, pretty much. But it helped start this fascination that people have had for generations with piracy. Now, piracy itself has been around for millennia. For as long as there's been trade by sea, there's been piracy, and that goes back to the ancient world, and it's always been a scourge on the people who are trading by sea. In fact, Pompey Magnus, the famous Roman general, made his career essentially by fighting pirates. Like that was his start, and that was in
I remember.
probably 70 BC or so, maybe a little bit before. And that's just shows just how ancient pirates are. And you go back even further again, like so long as we've had trade by sea, we've had piracy. And the modern day viewpoint that we have on pirates is pretty much all around what's called the golden age of piracy in the Caribbean, at least in the Western world, because that was when piracy was really brought to the forefront. And again, pirates were a scourge. There's a reason why, as soon as a lot of European powers started getting really serious about colonization, they got equally serious about destroying pirates. And it's kind of interesting that so much of our pop culture is based around the golden age of piracy. Like I revisited Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which is probably my favorite Assassin's Creed game. It's definitely up there because it's something that I hadn't played in a long time, and I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to play the pirate game again. Sid Meier's Pirates, which you and I played when we were kids, is actually coming as an expansion to Civ 6, which I'm really curious to see how that's going to go, and I'm excited to see it. I started listening to this history of pirates podcast today, and it's been fascinating because it started really with it's all about the golden age of piracy, but it started with pretty much with the Age of Discovery and Columbus's when Columbus sailed out out of Europe into what we now know as the Americas, and that's kind of where it starts. And I've just started watching a little bit of Black Sails, which was a show that came out on Stars a few years back that people really liked. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies have made so much money because we just have this fascination with those charming rogues that are of pirate, the charming rogues that people think of when they think pirates. Now, pirates for sure were a lot of them were bad dudes, because unfortunately most of them were dudes. There were certainly some women pirates, but predominantly they were men.
At
And
least the
they
ones that were caught were men.
well, I mean, women were almost uniformly banned off of Golden Age of piracy ships.
Golden Age. Most of piracy.
No, but I mean, Golden Age is its own thing, which is really what our fascination goes with. And it's really interesting to kind of learn a bit because I thought I knew stuff about piracy because it's been so ingrained in our culture. But in reality, like, most of what we know is all mythology, and it's kind of cool that way. Like, in every way, shape, and form, it's kind of cool to have these myths who were once living. And it kind of leads me into why I believe people are fascinated with pirates. And I think a part of it is that pirates were the first rebels. The first modern age democracy was pretty much made by pirates. Like, the pirate ships were very democratic, as in almost everyone received equal pay. Certainly, the captains were almost always elected, and that went to when you had the Republic of Pirates on Nassau. Nassau, think I'm mispronouncing that, but it was the headquarters of the short-lived Republic of Pirates during the Golden Age of piracy. So there's that kind of romantic notion of swashbuckling adventures that these gritty but democratic men went through, and there's also just the straight fact of society has always loved a rebel story. They've always loved an underdog, and you can look back. A lot of our most famous myths going back to ancient times were of underdogs. Perseus was an underdog when he was going up against the Gorgons. Hercules was an underdog when he was doing his 12 labors. And to countless other mythologies worldwide, is we've always loved the underdog. And pirates, in a way, are kind of the ultimate underdogs. They are brave, fearless men on their boats in the sea, sailing to doom or glory through the thick and thin, storms and fights as they live the life they want to live. And I can get why that's a romantic notion. I can get why people love that. Because it's the Western story in itself. A group of underdogs get together to form this great thing. And I think it's why piracy has just endured in our pop culture for millennia. So Tony, my question for you is: what was the first thing that you really saw that had pirates in it? Tony, talk to you in a few minutes, but I'll see you on Monday. Later, bro.